So I finally got to see Avengers Endgame. A little bit later than the rest of the movie reviewing community, but still got to see it. Better late than never, right? And I'm sure there are some of you out there who clicked on this video with a certain sense of apprehension because I'm one of the few people in the world who didn't like its predecessor, Avengers Infinity War. So, how do I feel about this last hurrah? I think it's good. I really do. No bandwagon jumping, no backpedaling. I genuinely do think this is a very satisfying movie. And don't worry, I'm not getting into spoilers. I'm going to keep this review as basic as possible, just in case there are still some of you out there who haven't seen the movie yet. But believe me when I say, I really do find this movie to be a satisfying film. As most of us have figured out by now, Endgame is the last hurrah for a large chunk of the original Phase 1 Marvel characters. And as a result, Endgame's primary job is to give them a good send-off. And I won't spoil anything, I repeat, but as far as being a good send-off, it works wonders. And that's just in terms of that particular goal. In other senses, the movie excels where I feel Infinity War faltered in a lot of ways. Part of what made me not like Infinity War was the fact that it felt overstuffed. There were too many characters in it, and therefore not enough time to give all of those characters their due credit. So now in this movie, when half of the characters have been dusted, those who remain really get a chance to shine almost like they never have before. And they've got plenty of room to do it, believe you me. It's actually interesting how much of this movie isn't about action. I mean, when the action comes, it is big. The last part of the movie is one of the biggest, most epic battles ever put to film. I don't think I've seen something like that since the days of the old epics where they advertised it having a cast of thousands. I mean, it's mostly CGI, but that's beside the point. For the majority of Endgame, it's more about the character progression. It's more about the journey and not really exploration per se, but having a particular goal and getting to it, and how you go about doing that. And there's not much action when that happens. Some, but most of the action is saved for the very end, which I honestly think was a nice change of pace. And almost incredibly, the movie doesn't actually feel like it's over 3 hours. It is, but it moves along at such a good pace that it doesn't feel that way. That's always the sign of a great film, if you ask me. Well, at least the sign of a great 3-hour-long film. But I'm not going to say that Endgame is perfect. A lot of those imperfections go into spoiler territory, and I already said I'm not going to do that, so I'll try to keep this as vague as possible. If you were to ask me what doesn't work about Endgame, it would be that certain plot developments feel like they came out of nowhere, without any proper setup, and really kind of in a way that we're just supposed to accept it without having seen us get to that point. It breaks the show don't tell rule a lot. Like, I get why they would have to do it for some moments, but there are other moments where I'm not so sure they really should have broken it. And the really big one would be that the plot makes absolutely no sense. At all. It is a flimsy house of cards. The minute you start actually thinking about it, the whole thing falls down. That alone is going to keep Endgame from being cited as an example of great storytelling. But here's the thing. I feel the movie earned the right to have me overlook those flaws, or at the very least not focus on them to the point where it drags the whole thing down. The realm of storytelling has an eternal struggle between pathos and logos, and specifically, which one it's worse to sacrifice. Is it worse to have a story that makes no sense, or worse to have a story with no emotional impact? Definitely, Endgame leans towards having a story with emotional impact rather than one that makes sense. In a perfect world, it would have done both, but in this case, it leans more towards the pathos than the logos. And the thing is, the pathos was executed so well that I can overlook the fact that the Logos doesn't hold up. I think it's at least earned the right for me to set that aside and de-emphasize it for the moment. It's just filled with so much emotion and respect for the characters and moments we've been waiting to see on screen for years that it won me over. It was a very satisfying experience, and that is the ultimate word I can use to describe Avengers Endgame. It is satisfying. That may sound underwhelming to some, but it's the best word I can come up with. It didn't leave me feeling like I got too much, nor did it leave me feeling like I got too little. I feel like I got just the right amount to be satisfied. This is a good ending for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, it's not actually the ending. They are going to keep going, but you know what? We can save that for another day. Right now we're talking about Endgame, and Endgame is the conclusion that the MCU really did deserve. Certainly the conclusion that the various characters who have had their last hurrah deserve. It was satisfying. That's the long and the short of it. Like it said in the movie itself, part of the journey is the end. And this is the end I think we've all been waiting for. I'm glad it turned out the way it did. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer, signing off. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.